All
Man,
right.
yeah, how you doing, Fred?
I'm fantastic. I'm with you at Culture Coffee too.
Finally, man, just trying to nail you down for an interview, man. It's just I got to go through like 10 people. What's going on? You Mr. Celebrity now.
I don't know about celebrity, but it's good to have good people around you. It
Yeah,
takes a team to make a dream. If your dream, it can be accomplished just by you, then it's not big enough.
I hear you, man. Hey, that's why I love talking to you all the time. So how you been, man?
I'm doing great. Thank God. You know. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
yourself and your family, how are you all?
hey, we good. We
All
good.
right.
One day at a time, but we good. We good.
And
So
thank you for what you do.
no, I
You the connector.
yeah, there's a lot to chat about today, man. So I'm actually out of state. I'm actually visiting a friend of mine in Connecticut.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he doesn't know I'm here yet. So by the time I
Okay.
show up to his house, I'll be like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?"
Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Him and his family. So, so where are you right now?
I'm at Culture Coffee too in Washington, D.C. Let me tilt this up so you can see everybody. If you
Nice,
want a perfect cup of coffee in a perfect place, created for you, by us, for you, Culture Coffee at 300 Rick Road is the place. So come and
nice,
take a picture, send it out to all your loved ones that you've made it to the Mecca.
nice, man. And you've been, tell us a little bit about Culture Coffee too.
Okay. Well, Miss V has curated a real life place where women can be their authentic self. They can celebrate the beauty in and out through art, craft drinks, coffee, even spirits are here. Spirits that are produced by Black-owned spirit companies. Books, there's a bookshelf. There are authentic teapots all around the place,
Nice,
and just beautiful art. Here, this is a craft art piece of art that's here. So, as well as the outside, and just a place full of love, created by love.
nice, man, nice. What got you into Culture Coffee too? I mean, you and I we met there a couple of times, and it's a great place. I
Thank
enjoy
you.
going there. Yeah, it's a great atmosphere. But tell me what makes it so special? What got you involved, and what made it so special for you?
Well, I mean, think about it. There aren't that many places in the world that were created with African American women in mind. You don't have to worry about being judged. You can come here. You don't have to worry about your nails or your hair, and just be your authentic self. And the coffee is great. And the inspiration that happens not only for women, but it's men. We are welcome here also too. But to be a part of an environment that stimulates positivity and love for our women is just real.
Yeah, and in the background is that Miss V?
Yes, that's Ms. V. We are actually what you're hearing is we're getting ready for an art show tonight for young persons. And so the art show tonight for young people is for families. And so I just want y'all to show you. You see here, that's Ms. V. Ms. V,
There's Miss
please.
V right there.
Ms. Ms. V, can you wave? Yes, we're doing a podcast. I want everybody to meet you.
There's the famous Miss V of
Yes, that's the
DC.
famous Miss V. So when you come to DC and you meet her, and she's been all over the world. I mean, she worked for Amtrak for years, but Miss V is full of energy, and that energy you can feel it when you walk in the door. You
Yeah,
can see it on the walls. It's a piece of art everywhere, and to have young people be able to create and their art on the wall for sale.
yeah.
These young people are learning about business. So they created something by hand, and they're going to be able to sell and use their money to carry forth their dreams and their inspirations.
No, that's a beautiful thing, man. That's really good. Like I said, I've been there a couple of times, and you're right. It's really about the business owners who have a place to showcase some of their wares and their expertise in what they do and their love for what they do, and have a place to sell it, and have a place for other people to take a look at it, experience what they do. So So let's talk about you, man.
Okay.
How you know you're a DC born and raised and all
Third
that.
generation Washingtonian. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know there's a story behind you, like your grandfather and your father. So what's the story there? How did you get into the food industry?
Well, my grandfather was one of the first Black chefs to work for Marriott when he opened up the hot shops.
Wow.
The hot shops, that whole Marriott Corporation was a major. It happened. A lot of it happened here in DC. The hot shops were a place for um, the family to come together to get a hot, affordable meal. And this is before McDonald's took over that whole. And so watching my grandfather go to work and produce food to feed the family, it resonated and showed me the possibilities to have a life where my grandfather had a brick home. Well, still have it. We still own the house, even though at 101 years old, he transitioned. My grandfather was able through his hands, and my grandmother. I got to give praise to my grandmother. Both of them together was able to work and earn and to purchase a brick home with grass all around it. Uptown DC, during a time where the depression, et cetera, a lot of people were just trying to put food on the table. Yeah. They were able to take care of my mother and my uncle in a way that inspired me to know through hard work you can take care of the family. So that was my first introduction. I graduated from Roosevelt Senior High School and started my culinary training, because having a natural skill, it's on you to get the training to take that skill from just being good at to being professional at it. And so starting that, going to Johnson Wells also, and coming back here and dabbling at Howard University, but being fortunate to opening my own restaurant very early. I was in my 30s. Just going into my 30s when I opened my first restaurant on 8th Street. 8th Street was another part of the city, Ward 7, that I grew up in. So we had the Capitol Hill community. And so I got a chance to see a lot of different parts of the city. Because every summer I was uptown with my grandparents. I'm third of 10 brothers and sisters. So definitely I understood the importance of working and hiring family and bringing money back home to make sure your brothers and sisters not only ate, but they had the means to make their dreams come true also. Our Inspire Cafe, Inspire Barbecue, Platinum Catering resonated in the city, providing food for over 3,000 children a day. And that 3,000 children. Hold on, y'all. Let me, Ms. V, I know we got to edit it a little bit.
So we're not gonna edit this, brother. We can,
okay,
we
all
can
right.
keep moving forward.
So that 3,000 meals allowed me to touch students. So these were kids in elementary, junior high, and these were charter schools. So KIPP was a new school system just coming into DC. And so being able to provide food for those children allowed me to touch the parents also. So my catering company focused on curating that same high quality dining experience that I was providing for children in the schools at Fannie Mae, at DC Courts, with some of the Washington's oldest organizations like the People's Involvement Corporation, which is no longer here, but we do have Marshall Heights organization.
Right.
So my skill of cooking wasn't just an ability to generate income. I saw the impact that it made, because as a business owner, I understood that I had to sit down once a month and have lunch at the different schools that I was providing the food for. That gave me a chance for my people, because I live in the same neighborhood I grew up in. I still own a home in the same neighborhood I grew up in. I saw the young people at the supermarket. So those young people that saw this guy delivering food to them also saw me at the supermarket on Saturday. So they saw that no matter where I was or where I am, I'm the same guy and I'm touchable. And I think that's a business principle that I got from my grandfather. Whatever you do it well enough that it's a legacy. You're not proud, but you're not embarrassed. You know, you don't do things that you're ashamed of. So I carried my business principles where that anyone who saw me, they would tell me how good the spaghetti was. And it's just spaghetti, but no, it's spaghetti and it's good spaghetti. Or
Yeah.
they told me how happy they were because I did the repast at Metropolitan. I did a lot of food at Metropolitan Church, which is one of the oldest church here in Washington, D.C. So I provided the repast meals for a lot of parents that could not afford to feed their family when their grandparents passed. You know, a lot of seniors passed. And so I had the esteemed pleasure to make sure that at that repast, when families are coming together, they're consuming my food at an affordable rate, because I was able to know that my profits were made when I was charging other folks who could afford it. So all of that resonated from watching my grandmother, watching my mom and dad, and watching the men and women who've helped make me who I am.
Yeah. And the work, even the work, that's a beautiful story, I have to admit, because, you know, one of the things that came to mind when you're talking about your story was something my dad told me. Even, I think when I was a kid, my grandfather once said to me in his rough, raspy voice as a grandfather, he says, you know, you always, you live to your last name, because your name is what you have, and that's it. You know,
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Don't embarrass the name.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that my dad used to tell me.
I'm gonna go into the kitchen. So keep talking. Yep. Well,
Yeah.
and yeah, you know what's so funny? The kitchen, it was also a safe place because it allowed me at my grandmother's house, no matter which one, I knew if I was in the kitchen, I'll get some food. So, you know, I had my brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And so I knew if I was in the kitchen helping grandma, I might not get all the food on the plate, on the table,
right.
But because I was at least in the kitchen helping her, I'm getting a little bit extra.
It seemed, it worked out well, man. It worked out well in your favor. So,
Yeah,
so hey,
God is
it
good.
worked out. Thank God for grandma.
Yep, both of them. I'm honored to be able to. So I was my father is my father's Tate.
Yeah.
So I am son of Joseph Tate. But when I was at 10th Street Baptist Church, I was grandson of Deacon Thomas. And so I'm never just Furard. Right. And so people now, my friends address me as Tate. And so that when they say Tate, it's not just Furard. You know, I represent a family of individuals who've been in this metropolitan area for years. So, yeah.
Yep. No, I totally get that. I have a few friends that call me Lindsay. Mm-hmm. But when I hear it, I'm like, ooh, that's deep.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling. It's a different, you feel it's the weight of it. The weight of your grandfather, the weight of your grandmother, all of it's there.
Yeah.
It's an interesting feeling. And then, you know, with your experience in the business and your experience in feeding people as well as you do, and putting it together, because for the years I've known you, you know, you've put together a really interesting package and trying to put things together for other people. You were telling me, I think it was in December or January of this year, even during the pandemic season, it was 1 month where you fed, now I'm going to get the number wrong, but I think it was like 500 families.
Yeah, we started out. Okay, so before we go there.
Okay.
Also, Mr. Lindsay, you are a pillar of the quote unquote past, but you also are a pillar for the future. So though you stand on grandmom and dad's, et cetera, shoulders, aunts and uncles, you also, as Mr. Lindsay, also are the quote unquote, you know, the tree that will take the weight or establish the roots for your young people, your children, you know, and their grands. Yeah. So also when I think of Tate, I think of leaving a legacy that my son and daughter will also know that when they say it, they say, oh, you're the son of, our daughter's the daughter of. And so she knows when she sits in church, she's not, even though I might not be beside her, she's sitting with the spirit of her ancestors. And so when you're up there doing scriptures, you're speaking in the spirit also of your ancestors. And so I think that a lot of times we have, as business owners, are so busy that we forget that the type of business or the type of business persons we are also affects our children, because whatever the industry they get in, your dad fed me when I was in elementary school. I'd rather have them say that than your dad gave me some crap when I was hungry.
I'm telling you, man. I hear you. And that goes back to what I was telling you earlier, right before you moved to the kitchen, the safe place, as you call it. I love that. The safe place. It's a safe, happy place, man.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's like my dad used to say, and he always talked to me just between him and I, and especially when he would take me to we used to live on St. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
He would take me to the Saturday morning market in Marigot on the French side. Mm-hmm. And early morning, like 7 in the morning, where the fishermen were coming back from fishing in the what we call the Fore morning, in the early wee hours of the morning. They come back to sell their fish. And you buy your fish and then you have them, cook it and clean it and fry it right there. He would always make sure that I was part of that and saw that, because that's just part of our culture growing up in the Caribbean. And the one thing he would always say was, you always carry your ancestors in your front pocket.
Yes.
And you never understood it as a child. When you grew up, and after a while, you're like, got it.
Yep.
You always carried in front of you.
Yep, that's right.
That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So, you're right. We tend to lose that these days, and we do our best to share that with the young folks around us. We're both still young, so come on.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
So we still have that story to share and to hear our elders talk about it. So no, I definitely appreciate you sharing that, because there's a lot there. And that's what you put in your food, man. That's what I can say.
You got it. Yeah, because at the end of the day, even though the principal was signing the contract of those school lunch, my core customer was that child who had to eat the lunch.
Yeah.
And so I kept my commitment to the principal by having the food meet the state requirements. The food was delivered on time, but I kept my commitment to the child that the food was flavorful. It was good. It was something that they wanted, because a lot of our children came to school needing to eat.
Yeah.
Well, for no reason, no explanation. I can't tell you why you don't have what you need at home. That wasn't my responsibility. Is God blessed me with the means of making sure I'm helping fill that gap.
Yeah.
So if you want some extra food, here's some extra food. But I had to make sure that it was food that you wanted.
Yeah.
And so sitting down and have lunch with you was also a way of me getting to know what else you want to eat. So one of the things I would do as a business person, I want our businesses to know that even though your true customer, because even though the person signing your check may be the large corporation, but who's using your product, who's consuming, be it who's using your tech, who's eating the cookie, have a relationship with the end user, and to be able to make the adjustments that the end user needed. So when the children would say, why are you using turkey meat and not ground beef? Because my mama used ground beef at home. I had to understand that there's a different taste and texture. I'm using turkey meat because one is leaner and it falls better in the requirements. Also, is more affordable, which allows me to keep my price point, so I can feed you as much of this spaghetti as you want. Right. But I had to be able to articulate that to the end user. So sometimes we have products or services that when people question us, well, why is this widget this much money? I need to be able to step back and explain why that widget is. Yeah. So all of that, again, stems back from that father and mother and grandparents relationship, because we would go out into the garden. And then my father would take me, also like you, because I have a large family, we would go to the market. and we would buy these big cases of greens. And so as a chef, I knew where to go get I didn't give frozen food. I knew where to go get fresh greens, and I knew how to take that fresh green and actually use some of that stem in some stock for some soup, as well as for my seasoning, as well as to get the best out of that green, where a kid is not going to knowing it. And unfortunately, most of our children are not. So I knew my product because I saw that same product as a kid. And so you were just about to ask me about my desire to feed families. Well, during COVID, we fed families because my father would not only make sure there was food in the house for us, we also made sure that there were other people. We saw other people in the neighborhood coming over and sometimes getting a bag of food. Because we would buy, not from the supermarket, carton of eggs, he would buy a big case of eggs. You know, it was so funny. My grandmother on Miss Thomas on my mother's side, she would pull my mother to the side and say, "You're giving those kids too much eggs," you know, because, you know, feeding kids, we will have eggs every day. And cholesterol was one of those issues back in the day that, you know, my grandmother wanted to make sure that, you know, give us some other things other than eggs. Yeah, man. A scrambled egg, an egg omelet. So again, we took those childhood experiences, not only getting a good meal, but also doing good to others. And so we were fortunate we kicked off our feeding with 500 families. And it wasn't just me, it was some churches and some other organizations coming together. But in doing that, we discover, again, knowing your market, even in doing good, there's a market. We discovered that a lot of the products that people were receiving were cans, and there needed to be a fresh meal. And so we were able then to pivot into providing a prepared, amazing meal. It was a meal pie that gave that family that had food insecurity, because we all are in some ways or some part of our life, you know, especially college students or people growing up in neighborhoods I grew up, have experienced food insecurity. Not enough in that box, but we made sure there was enough on that plate for another 100 a month of families. But again, it stemmed from that childhood experience of knowing that one of the true successes in life is knowing that you have enough to share with others.
Yeah. And talk a little bit. Well, I actually tasted your pie, that amazing. I was one of the testers.
You were not only a testers, but you were one of those who helped us to understand the market, that there was a market for it. And that's one of the things people also need to know. When you have a good idea, connect your idea to people, not just your loved ones. Can run your idea through people who know more as filter. They know more than you. So like anything, that's a filtering of your product so that you can get to the core, whatever that core that you want to then take to market. And you are so great in that.
And I'm very appreciative of being part of that project. And many of the projects that you do in the DC area and in Virginia and Maryland as well. But what I found so amazing in what you did and what you and your team did, you have a large team of people. You have some chefs that were on different national shows. You work with some really famous chefs in our area, in the DC area. So all you did was make a call, and I love that how you brought that team together, because they believed in the mission that you have. And the other part of it was you were feeding people that your target market, if I could go back to that, your target market in terms of who the food went to were people who were actually couldn't work in the restaurant industry. And that was a huge need. You identified that so quickly. And because you are in the food industry and you work in those restaurants, you see it. You see the need, like, wow, you know, this waitress, you know, doesn't have a job and she was relying on this work, but you know, how do we do it with dignity? I remember you talking about having dignity and just not giving a can of food, but let's prepare something just like they fed people at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So that whole construct, that entire context was sort of given back to them. And when you were sharing that with us, I was like, man, that's just an amazing um, uh, story, how you put it together, where you looked at the supply chain. The waitress is actually providing cooked food to her customer, his or her customer. Why can't we do that to them
Yeah.
in the time of their need when the restaurants were actually forced to shut down? And how many? It was about 500, right, or 700. It was a pretty large number that we came
Yeah,
across.
it was a large number. Yeah, yeah, we did it each month.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And we broke it down. So we started out with that 500, and then we broke it down to 100 because we knew we needed a number that we could have impact, but that it wouldn't break us. And again, it was a team. We were able to reach to Chef Rock, people at Ben's Chili Bowl, people who knew our market, which were people who were no longer able to work as waiters and waitresses because of the pandemic, but
right.
still needed to be fed. And even though some of them were able to get unemployment checks. Remember, a lot of the waitresses, they were already just like, they were part-time workers. They were working part-time at this restaurant and then part-time at another restaurant to make a full-time salary, but both those restaurants would close. So now he or she, who was a bartender or waiter, no longer had either of those incomes coming in. And some of them, weren't even on paper. And that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah,
And some
yeah.
of them were just working off tips.
Yeah.
Again, whole nother. So being able to just be of service. So if we're living on purpose and not just in pursuit of profit,
Right.
then a purpose-driven individual will begin to listen to the needs of other people in their environment. And in listening to those needs, the universe would then provide you the answers, not just for yourself, but the answers to fulfill other people's needs. Which every core business, if you're in business, you're supposed to be solving a problem.
Yeah.
Eliminating, providing a need because there's a problem for it. And that need sometimes, and it should always be rooted in some ethical interaction between you and someone else that you are getting, compensated for, but they are also benefiting from it. So there's a win-win. And when that happens, it's a beautiful thing. So to watch the people come up and come through the door, Culture Coffee, and receive their meal and to feel love, well, they remember that feeling. So when they're better off, then they'll come back and have a perfect cup of coffee, and they're paid for it. And maybe they'll give a tip to the server here because now they're in a better condition because we helped them get through the condition that they were in.
Exactly.
And and just like those kids in elementary school who ate the food, they're parents now. And so sometimes I run into them and they recognize me and to have them say, I remember having lunch with you, or what are you doing now, Mr. Tate? Or this is what I'm doing now, Mr. Tate. That's more rewarding, trust me, to watch a father walk their children up to the same elementary school that I used to provide food for.
Wow.
Yeah, see, my son and daughter, so my son is in his last year of school here, but he's in a charter school now. My daughter graduated from Duke Ellington. And so I was still at interactions with some of those kids. So, and this is really funny. So my son just graduated from junior high school to high school. One of the parents of my son's classmate, one of my son's classmates, the parent was a kid that I used to feed in high school. So he was going to high school at the time, And this is
Wow.
some years ago,
Yeah.
this is over 10 years ago. He was going to high school. Now his son is graduating the same time my son is graduating,
Wow.
and to have him come up to me and just say, he introduced his son to me, like, this is the man that, fed me when I was blah, blah, blah in high school. And I was like, and we all took a picture together. So my son is looking at him like, they play on the playground together. But my son, I didn't know that that kid's father was a kid that I used to feed when he was in high school some years ago. Made me feel old, but but also it gave my son a sense of that's my dad type of thing, and so going back to your actions should not always be about just profit, because you never know the impact of those actions. And that's, again, this is over 10 years ago that I was taking care of kids in schools. We did elementary, we did junior high, we did high school, etc.
All because of grandmother's safe place in the kitchen.
Yeah. And guess what, too? And in that kitchen, she taught me how my Tate. She taught me how to bake cookies. So when I was in elementary school, I wasn't a basketball. I didn't do all that. I played for fun, but I was selling chocolate chip cookies, 2 for $1.
You were in business like in 5th grade, man.
Actually, 5th and 6th grade, I was on the playground, and I would do about anywhere from 20 to 15 cookies a day. These were large cookies.
Yeah.
50 cents a cookie, but I would always say 2 for $1 and get that dollar. Yeah. So this, again, it kept me some cash in my pocket, kept me out of needing other people, but it also kept me knowing that I can produce by my hands if I chose to use the skills that God has blessed me with.
That's a lot of history right there. A lot of history right there, man. A lot of lessons learned for even just by doing and showing. That's your kids see that, and just by doing and showing, as a business owner and what you do for the nonprofit and on the for-profit side, just by kids watching what you do is a lot there to learn. Not just on the technical side of the business and food industry that you're in, but it's also just the human side, and sometimes, that's, to me, it's also very important. This is why I love what I do. This is why I guess you and I connect so well. And I call you coach, by the way, because I remember when you and I met, you were doing a coaching session. I was actually sitting in the room because I was just like, I got to meet this guy. I'm going to go and meet this guy. I heard about you, and I was like, nah, I'm just going to sign up. I'm going to walk in, sit in the back of the room. And I was in the back of the room, and you were like looking at me, and I was looking at you. And I was just like, all right, if you and I connected just by that, I'm like, we can do a lot. We can do big things. And that's kind of how I felt. So, I mean, I call you coach because of that, because you were actually coaching, I think it was like 40 or 50 people in the room. And you were just, really, your heart was just coming out with these folks. And they were business owners, small business owners, anywhere from barbershops, hairs, nails, T-shirts, and they had a small enterprise. And I can tell right there, I was like, wow, this guy loves what he does, man. So it was just a great example of what people see when they see you do what you do.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And again, you were there in doing what you do. You are a seeker of information, and then you have this unique ability of taking this information and giving it back to individuals in the way that they can apply it. I like the fact that I can refer someone to you, and you can see what they do, and then you can structure best procedures for them to do it in. And that's something that is so needed. And so I pray that the people who get the chance to work with you, for them to understand, give it all to you. Don't, because in everything you don't judge. I've watched you, and at times I'm like, you made me feel, I'm looking up because you've made me feel comfortable enough to be my authentic self. It ain't all, we go, And I'll be real, there were times when I told business owners, you don't please everybody. Right. And that theory about the customer is always right. That's a theory that says I can't tell the customers that they're wrong, right, but they're not always right. I just have to be hospitable in the delivery of why I'm doing this business, because it's not for everybody. Exactly. And when my business weren't at its peak, again, I had to go back to those cores. So when I was able to connect people to life assets as a way of helping them find the financial money to bring those dreams into fruition, yeah, that's what I do. I still do. But now I'm really excited about being here at Culture Coffee, but also working with the Washington Urban League and working with DMV Black Restaurant Week. I'm the co-founder, to help businesses on that pathway in hospitality. This hospitality, inspire hospitality, my core business. I want to inspire you in this hospitality industry because it's all about service. It's all about giving. Yep. And as a people, we were forced here with the understanding that they knew we could serve. They knew in our core that we had this, and I've been to Ghana and I've touched the door of no return, and I know the spirit that lies in us. I've had the pleasure of knowing that spirit resonates in our brothers and sisters who didn't get all the way here. They got dropped off in the Caribbean. There's an energy of service. We call it hospitality, but the core is service. And as a spirit, our spirit is here to serve. And so I want to help people to find their purpose of service. This energy that flows to us is not for you to bottle it up. It's for you to develop it in a way to bring light to the world through your service. And so Inspire Hospitality is just that, a business that helps you to be at your best service to the world.
No, I'm blushing, man, because I didn't expect that.
Well, brother,
blushing, man. This is about you, man. I want to keep it on you.
Okay. No, but this is yeah. So you helped me to be my authentic self so that I could carve out what and how I should be doing this service as a business so that I could be more professional and more proficient. Because see, you got people who are proficient, but there's no systems. Right. So is there really a profession behind it? Could you actually have someone else come and do what you just did? So you help us to put the systems into play so that when I'm gone, because I will go, there should be structure there so that whatever we produce can continue to produce. Yeah.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I didn't expect it, but I want to say thank you, man.
You're welcome. That's the truth.
And you and I always talk about this offline, and we're kind of like, sometimes you never know how you impact other people, just by being your authentic self and providing that service. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, there are times when you have to drop the hammer, mm-hmm. and there are times when you have to be a feather. Mm-hmm. You just have to figure out when, but learning when to do that, you have to take a step back and find out who you are. And find out, you build your strength in that learning.
Yes, sir.
You build your strength in saying, hey, this isn't about me anymore. This is about how do I provide that service to others. Yes. And at the same time, I love what you said, where it's the common thing where the customer is always right. I never liked that statement. I never did, because it's not true. It's really not true. The thing is, it's not about the customer. It's about everyone involved in that process.
Yes.
And this is why I love when we first start talking about understanding your market. You are providing a service in your nonprofit world. You're providing a service to feed families, right? Well, who is the customer? The customer is the family who needs that amazing meal, which, by the way, we got to get into that, brother. We got to get into that, man, Tate.
Okay.
About that amazing meal. That's the customer, yes, But if you present it, if you really think about your market, what are you presenting? What's in it? Is it healthy? Are you doing it with love and intent? And you're doing it, with that intentionality, and you're putting all of that in the ingredients. It's not just, the turkey and the potato mix and the beans. It's the love. It's
Yes.
your intent. It's where you're
Yes.
coming from. It's
Yes.
it's your forefathers, where you come from.
Mhm.
All that went into that meal that you prepared, and you actually worked hard in creating that menu. You and your brother worked
Mhm.
hard in creating that menu, like 5 or 6 items, and I'm gonna let you get into that. And then when people received it, that's where the beauty came about, because it was like, wow, thank you. You didn't have to say much. I remember that. You were like,
Mhm.
here. That was it. That's
Yeah.
all. This is for you. Right? And
Well,
that's
you know
it.
what? I can say this to you because I know who you are and I know the people are going to be watching it. When we are at our core, what you just said, you're not just doing business with me. You literally are doing business with my ancestors, but you also are doing business with my children, because you're going to hopefully, whatever reward I get from doing business with you, I share that with my children, right? So
Yeah.
that's that 3, right? So if I'm in the kitchen cooking, I'm tasting what my ancestors, I'm tasting what my grandmother, I'm tasting from my grandfather. And if I'm listening to the spirit of, I'm remembering, oh, this is what Grand did.
Yeah.
You remember when you took your children to the market, this is what my dad did.
Yeah.
And so if we're living in purpose, we are always living with the spirit of our ancestors in our moves and our action.
Yep.
And so we should take that serious in the way we treat each other.
Yep.
And in the way that the person receiving the product from our businesses, they should also know that not only is that customer proud, our ancestors is also proud, because they are watching us do what we do in the moment we're doing it.
Yeah. I hear you, man.
I don't mean to be crazy, but
no, that's not crazy, man. That's truth right there. That is truth. Because I just can't add to that. That sounds exactly what, my dad always preached to me growing up, and what my uncle, who's alive, he's still alive today, thank God. When he and I talk, we talk about, things like that. We talk about, my grandfather, who's he's a fisherman and he's a farmer when he was alive, and just rough, just one of those roughs, guys from the ocean, guys from the sea, on a rickety boat, a 15, made by his own hands, a rickety boat, going out there and just catching fish, and then herding his goats and stuff like that, and going on the farm and getting potatoes and sweet potatoes and all that kind of stuff. I grew up in that. I thank God that I experienced that. And the beauty of it is even now, like when I bake bread, I just love baking bread. The smell is like, there's a memory that, wow, I forgot about that. The smell brings it back. You're like, oof, that's, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, oh boy, this is deep. And we take that, to another level when we put it in our business. And I love that we do that. I love that you can translate that into, like, you showed your hands, and you put that into the love of your work, which is your business. And people connect with that.
Yes.
People not only connect, but they come back, and they want more. And they're like, hey, Tate, what else you got?
Yeah. Because they have a soul too.
Exactly.
And our spirits are always interconnected when we are in purpose. So what I do now, brother, is I'm striving to continue to not only feed, but to inspire. That's why that word is there. It's a real life thing. So every Monday we are teaching the class, and I hope that you send the flyer out. And where you started us at the root when you did the SWOT analysis, and you connected that SWOT analysis to your blueprint, which is your business plan, which is also a life plan. If you think about it, if your life is your business, and that plan needs to be evaluated. And you need to have a person like yourself to help dissect the evaluation. So if you are a business person and you're watching this, click with Brother Eric so that he can put that SWOT and that personal processes that you need to make sure that your business is in line with your purpose. And so I am working with people to make sure that they are connected to the resources. So once they talk with you, this past week, we had the licensing agency, DCRA,
Yeah.
we had the health department, we also had the APRA. But this week, we're going to have financial people. Next week, we're going to talk about customer engagement. So every Monday, my goal is to be a beacon to bring people into the light so that they can then see who they need to be connected to be in the right pathway to get to where they're going. Because you saw it, some people, they didn't have their business plan complete. Even myself, I need to continue to tweak my business plan. You had some people who were like, I don't have my licensing, even though I've been cooking. Well, you need to get a license now.
Yeah.
So by us being there for each other, we can really uplift each other.
Yeah.
And that's something that should be done on purpose.
Yes. And when I let me share this story. When I first started, my business in business coaching and small business consulting, the number one thing that was in my business plan, well, the top 100 things, but top 10 things was community. And the way you just defined it was how I define it. It wasn't just a community of other business coaches. It was a community of individuals who understood the deeper meaning of business and what business means to your life and how your life means and connects with other people and how we all can just help each other out in the right way. And that's the community. I'm part of your community, you're part of my community. The most important part to also understand is not everyone fits that community. I learned that the hard way. I learned that every day, actually. Not everyone fits that community, but that's okay. That's okay. There's billions of us on the planet. It's okay.
Right.
So we just need to find those individuals that we can that will push you and push me and push each other to really just keep moving forward. It's so important to have that in not just in our business life, but in our life period. And when you have that, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Man. It's a beautiful thing.
The brother that comes into my home and fixes my garbage disposal also fixes my AC unit. And so I'm like, brother, I'm not there, but the key, he knows where the key is. And when he tells me how much it costs, because he's in my community, there's no negotiation, because I know that he's telling me this is how much it costs. And I have no question. And then if he says, well, Furard or Tate, depending on, because he's a brother, your garbage disposal is going to be this much. I'll pick it up and I bring it in, and I'm like, fine, brother, it's cool. That's community, And same thing with the car. If someone says their car broke down, I can send my daughter to the mechanic, because he's a part of the community. I know he's not going to tell my daughter a widget for the car that doesn't belong, because so when I refer other people to his business, it grows his business, but at the same time, it grows our community.
And you talk about, I want to get back to that amazing pie. What's your Jeopardy question when you talk to people about the amazing pie?
Oh, okay. The hungriest day of the month. What is the hungriest day of the month? And that's normally that Saturday or Friday, because it's the last week of the month before that reimbursement check from our government comes in, and parents have to figure out that Saturday or that Sunday, or that Friday, that last Saturday, that last weekend of the month is a rough weekend, and we try to provide that amazing meal that Friday night or that Saturday night or that Sunday night, you choose. But it also should be a part of a system at least once a month, if not every week, bringing your family together for some real nourishment, without the TV on, you know, or
Yeah.
everybody got their cell phone earpods in their ear, sitting somewhere else in the house trying to eat food. No, our amazing meal is just that. It's a meal that brings the family together in the time when they need to come together. Because whatever troubles you are going through, and when my business closed, I tell you, all I cared about is making sure my children had meals and making sure my children had a house over their head. And so I did jobs with that sole purpose. I didn't care what you thought. If you saw me selling whatever I was selling, I knew I was selling something on purpose. I wasn't going to go out here and do anything illegal. But if I needed to go and work at a fast food place to use my skills, I would have been at that fast food place. The universe, I literally, when my business closed, and yes, businesses do close. It was a forced transition into my next, because I was doing what I was doing, and God said, well done. But I didn't listen that well done mean there's something else I have for you to do.
There you go. There you go.
You know? And so as I transition in what I'm doing now, I look back and it's like, oh, I wasn't listening. I got really good at what I was doing, but there was more that I could have done if I just went past what I was doing.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, and sometimes the universe will stop you from what you're comfortable at doing and shake everything up, so that you can do what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
And so, so I would never had stopped, because I was comfortable. I was on 8th Street.
Yeah.
I had, it was comfortable, enough money coming in where I can send my wife to get her nails done when she wanted it.
Yeah.
God had some bigger things for me to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's an amazing story. I mean, we, as every business owner I talk to has a similar story where they went up against that wall. Mm-hmm. That unseen wall that just came out of nowhere and hit you. Hey, I hit that wall a couple of times, early in my business, where I actually switched companies, and I stopped one company, started doing things differently. I remember, I know what you're going through. I know what you went through. I know what you went through. And a lot of us in business, that's something that we also have to remember is, once that happens, just sort of like, take a step back, and it's happening for a reason.
Yeah.
There's a higher calling. There's something happening. Don't fight it. Because our tendency is to fight or flight.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just have to have a tendency of sit down, take a chill, eat some Tate's amazing meal.
Yeah.
Have a slice of that amazing. That's a healthy pie, by the way. It's got what? It's got 5 ingredients in there.
Yeah. With the pie. So part of the pivot is, again, also going back. So when the Inspired Barbecue closed, and remember, we had articles in the Post. We were being interviewed by people like Anderson Cooper, CNN. We were like just flying. Yeah. But again, I'm thinking, okay, I'm on purpose. The kids are being fed. My family is fine. My mom's happy. I'm looking at all this around. But again, not being in tune. That's why someone like you is important to have those meetings with, to say, okay, everything in life is growing to next. So a tree goes through that cycle. Why don't you think you will in life? We all go through that rebirth cycle, right? But you have to know where you are in that cycle for you to not freak out and handle the cycle. Yeah. December is going to come. And if you're in DC, you might get some snow, but you're going to get some cold. April is going to bring some rain, so you have to be prepared. So having the right team around you will help you to be able to go through those transitions properly. I didn't have a right team around me. So when those transitions happened, I didn't have enough people to say, okay, let's look at this month's numbers. Let's look at this month's possibility, like the environment that we're in, our market, and let's see where the spirit is telling us to pivot.
Yeah.
And let's do it in prayer. Let's do it not just in fear of, well, we gotta get some more money in this month.
Right.
No, okay, we might not make our margins where we made last month, but let's look at what we did last year. And then now in that self-discovery, just say, well, we 10% higher or 10% lower, but we're still structured properly to withstand this. I didn't have those systems in place. So when things start to fall, I freaked out. And anything that you do in a panic, you will do in a situation, you will create even more situations that are more damaging than the situation that you're in if you just structure knowing that it's going to happen. You're going to have ups and downs in business.
Yeah.
And so now with the pies, in doing the pies, we purposely did a pie shell, because that pie shell, when you give someone a pie, there's already a kindred feeling when someone receives a pie, but then that pie has that warm potato inside, and that pie has that vegetable, and then that pie has that starch. I'm sorry, that pie has that protein. All those things together created a meal. And we did some love juice and some other stuff inside of it, some great toppings and things like that. But the goal was to be able to provide something where you, the customer, could pay for it here at Culture Coffee, and knowing that that meal would then have enough margin in it to feed somebody else. So now you are having a product that you are paying it forward for someone else. So again, your purchasing service from Brother Eric allows you to be able to have that team structure. You purchasing an amazing meal allows us to, again, work that magic to feed someone else together. And me with Inspire Hospitality and DMV Black Restaurant Week is just bringing all this into a circle that says, well, I have enough entities going on that when those ups and downs come, and they do, I have a team that helps me just to get through it. I call my brother Eric, say, Eric, I know I got 20 things in the fire, but this month right now, I got this pan on high. I got this pan just simmering because God has given me a stove with 6 burners, where when I was a kid, I could operate that 2 burner, but now I know I can work a 6 burner. So I got 6 different meals going on that I know this plate goes here, or these 2 pans are producing something that comes together. Being able to, as a chef, being able to see that stove, and even though I know that, okay, that one's simmering back there, that's about 2 hours or 2 months or a year away, but I need to right now, I need to get that roux, I need to get that or I need to, it's time to put the yeast in that process so that when the bread gets to the next level, but I gotta also let that bread sit. So some of the things that we're doing are they're sitting until it's time to literally take it to the next process.
Yeah. Well said, man. Well said. No, well said. I mean, that makes a huge difference in having just something very simple as a process. Step 1.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about not moving in fear.
Yeah.
But when we move in fear, everything gets discombobulated. Everything just goes out of whack because we're out of ourselves. This is why we need to take that step back. And for me, it's a lot easier say than do. But the more you do it, the more we can recognize that, where's this emotion coming from? Wait a minute, let me analyze that. Let me take a minute. Okay, let me make the next step, not in fear, but in confidence and intentionality, and in doing it within that plan, that construct of a plan. It's never going to be perfect. If, we can chase perfection, we're going to be chasing insanity.
Yes.
But we just have to do the best that we can, but let's not do it in fear. I love that message that you're saying, and that's so important for a lot of us to hear, because again, like you do it in fear.
when we walked into our grandparents' kitchens, we didn't know as children the hardship to put that food in that pot. We just smelled the aroma through the house. So we were running the house as kids, knowing we were poor, but not knowing what that meant, because we didn't grow up looking at someone else's shine, because everybody around us was as poor as us, you know, but we had food at that table. And so our parents knew how to have multiple pots on, because even my mother would make enough where there was something, she might make some stuff today for tomorrow. And I can't touch that, because in her mind, she already knew she's cooking this for another day. As business persons, we have to have enough things going on using a system to know, okay, this is for today. That burner back there is for someone else, because I got to get 10%. But this burner right here is for the future, because I want to leave something for my children. And this burner right here is for that people who can afford that extra, you know. But this is my core business. You know, this is what I do. But I got enough pots going on so that if by chance I burn this, because it happens, you know, sometimes my mother with 10 kids with that meal, she says, it's not burned, it's just scorched.
You know, it's like when I was a kid, that's good. When I was a kid, like, you know, they get the bottom of the rice, the big part of rice, you get that bottom crust.
Yep.
I remember growing up, my mom's been Venezuelan, and we used to call that bigao. The burnt part. So
the burnt part.
So we would fight for that burnt part.
Yes.
That was the best part. It was like, oh, this is different, man.
But you were presented to that. Some people take that part and you can add a little bit more flavor to it, you know. But some people would take that and throw it away, because they see it as burnt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they see it as burnt. My mother helped us to understand that, look, it doesn't have to be perfect. But you put your heart into it and it will feed you. It will feed you and your children. Your dad took you to know that those men went out there early in the morning with the congruent belief that they're going to come back with something. It wasn't promised that they was going to catch anything, but they had to get up and go out there with the congruent belief that they will. And then they brought back and shared what they brought back, what they caught. But Dad also knew that sometimes what he needed to catch would come from the ground, not the ocean. So there was that balance in businesses, and it was also affected about the season. What season are you in your business?
Exactly. That's well said, Tate. Well said, Coach. Well said.
I hear you, brother.
Well said, man. So with all that wisdom, man, what's next for you? What's the next big thing for Coach Tate, as I call you?
Okay, brother. With God's blessings, I want to help inspire other business owners to connect up with the resources they need to be successful on purpose. Whatever your core, whatever you believe, they say there's so many of us will be buried with a starting, an ending, and a dash, but no purpose ever found. If my purpose is to help be a connector to people, to the resources you need for you to live on purpose, then I'm in purpose. So that's where I am. I'm like, my service through hospitality to you is on purpose. And if the universe allows me to continue to do that for hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world, then that's what I will wake up every day to know that I have to talk to somebody, because I'm going to connect that individual after I know who they are to on purpose, because they're on purpose, so that they can be better servants to the world that they're here to serve. So I'm going to be calling you, because I got some people to connect to you, because they need to be in line to be at service.
Yeah, you bet, man. I'm here for you, man. You know that.
Likewise.
I'm here for you. I'm here for you. You know that from day one. So you, I appreciate you sharing that big next step, because that's something that you're doing that with the purpose of doing it. You're doing it with the intent of actually getting that done because of the community part. That's so huge. And that's just not cooking. There's a lot that goes into it. You know, there's a lot
Yes.
before you get the food in the pot. There's a lot that goes into that process.
Yes, sir.
You and speaking of putting food in the pot, you talked about the Black Restaurant Week here in DC. When is the next one coming up? Is it next year?
Yeah, no, in November, this year,
November.
in November. We do it every November, but we've been working with Black restaurants year round. And so this year, please go to DNV BRW to check us out online. This year, we will be kicking off with a bartending competition. Again, like we did with the Amazing Meals, we had the remix where we taught bartenders how to retool themselves during COVID and to produce using Black spirits. So we're going to be doing an amazing bartending competition. It's good to see some of our winners from the past doing things. I mean, some of our winners have been, written up in national magazines. They're on BET, and to say they not just started here in DC, but they started their craft, looking at their craft at another level at our DNV BRW bartending competition. Then we leave our bartending competition and we have our educational conference. Our educational conference connects people from all over the world. We had a young lady last year from South Africa who introduced her wine that's produced in South Africa.
Wow.
We had people here learn and meet and network. So our conference this year is going to be at Prince George's County Community College, where they have a culinary training program. We then leave into doing a jazz event featuring Marcus Johnson, who is a native, who has a wine. He was one of the first Blacks out there with a nice, high quality wine, but he's steeped in jazz. He's a well-known jazz artist. So we're going to do, because music and our food and spirit has all been a way of how we share our culture, right? Yep. We're going to do that. We're going to do a food truck event that, again, brings the family together, because we've always been having our food mobile, and so we're going to share food from different cultures, Ethiopian foods, as well as West African foods and American soul food. We're going to do that at our food truck event. And then we're going to have a closing event also featuring go-go. So my nephew is at one of the hottest go-go bands here in DC called Intuel, but my father wrote and produced Busting Loose, which was the first song that hit big in the go-go scene, sung or performed by Chuck Brown, is father of go-go or grandfather, whatever. But again, that was a collective. So go-go is an infusion of jazz improv beats with Caribbean and Latin flavor. That when my father was, was a producer here. He took all of that rhythm tracks, which allow us to continue to dance and boogie, go, 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 when we were out celebrating. A lot of times, the music would have to stop for one band to come up and the next band. So under that Motown artistry, there was always a 30 to 40 minute break in between. My father was the brand director at the Howard Theater, where a lot of acts will come into DC and perform. So in between acts, he would just have the percussion continue to bring live music, and that call and response kept people going to the bar. It kept people dancing, and now the artist, whoever the singer, can now then come back on. The next singer gives them enough time to come back on, and so that was a craft that was created here in DC. That go-go music was created. So we want to give homage to that spirit, our ancestors, our spirit, wrapped deep into food and culture. So
it sounds like you're putting together this event with the team.
Yep.
The image that comes to my mind is this is one big grandma's kitchen.
That's right. Yep. Food. Yep. So you're going to be able to go out to all of over 150 Black-owned restaurants and caterers and food trucks collectively. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, we love Ben's Chili Bowl, but there's Mimi's Ethiopian Barbecue on Pennsylvania Avenue. There's also Blue Water Caribbean Seafood out in Clinton, out in Maryland.
Yeah.
There is Mama's Kitchen, which is Chef Rock's new kitchen featuring recipes around chicken around his grandmother. So all of us are going to taste our culture and experience our culture through art and music through that November, which is some of the hardest time in the month for food, because as our coldness comes in, we need to keep the energy going to our food spaces.
Yeah, I'll definitely just, I'll put the links to all of that into the podcast, into the YouTube video, definitely at the description. All of that will be there. So we can always share that with other people. And hopefully we can, get some people from outside of our area, get some people from all over the world. Because I know that you have these cultures coming together, but you also have people who are originally from the Maryland, DC area that have actually moved to another part of the world. Remember that gentleman from, he actually sells Maryland fried chicken.
Yeah.
Over, I think is it Thailand or the Philippines?
Yeah. He's over in, like you said, he's over in doing chicken and fried watermelon. And he was able to zoom in. So you will be able to experience, no matter where in the world you are, DMV Black Restaurant Week's event. So please join in and share it with a family and friend.
Yeah, man, definitely. So how do we get in touch with you, Coach Tate? Tell me, the name of your company is Inspire. So tell me, how do I get in touch with you and your company and your team?
So what I would like you to do is in the chat, Inspire Hospitality, but you can follow me on Instagram at tate.dmv. You can listen to me every Wednesday on Be Informed DMV on 1450 AM, which is Kathy Hughes station. You might know Radio 1, where Radio 1 started at WOL here in Washington, D.C. And I didn't tell you this, but my restaurant on 8th Street was down the street from Kathy Hughes from WOL.
Wow.
Literally. And again, that whole Kathy, when I was selling those cookies, when I got a little older in junior high school, Miss Hughes would allow me to come to WOL and talk about my cookies. So cool, it was strategic that I opened my first restaurant on 8th Street in that corridor. It was really important to bring life back to that corridor through food and culture and good customer service. Hey,
Kathy Hughes came back to you, so that's some good cookies you gave her.
Thank you. And so to see that I'm back on WOL, and that WOL is one of the largest radio TV. Radio 1 is one of the largest broadcasting companies in the world. And it started here in Washington, D.C. What a woman who believed she could, and with a team that made it so. And so if there are any individuals out there in the hospitality industry that needs support, that needs to work with somebody willing to help you authentically be your best self, contact Eric. I will work with him to help you connect you to the resources and services. That's what I'm looking to do.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. And the one thing that comes to mind is we're in the DC area, of course. However, but nationwide, we have what's called the SBDCs, the Small Business Development Centers across the country that are funded by the SBA. The DC SBDC is a special place as resources as well. It's a special resource place too. And, my heart goes out to them. I'm going to give them a shout out to Carl and Charles. I call Charles Sir Charles. I call him Sir Charles because him and I have done some webinars together on his delivery. It's just pure confidence and just you just have to see it to believe it. I'm just amazed.
But it's rooted in knowing.
Yes.
Not arrogance. It's rooted in knowing. And when you know what you know and you're willing to give it, it comes out like, okay.
Yeah. And Carl Brown, leader of that organization over at Howard University, I want to give them a great thanks for for being a resource for small business in the DC area. And
Yes.
who knows, I'm definitely I want to have a chat with them on this podcast as well.
You should. Great
But,
organization, great team.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So Coach Tate, what's the one thing you would like for people to take away? What's the one nugget you would like to provide people with right now before we end?
Breathe in, blow out, live on purpose. Every breath, live on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. Just live on purpose.
And with that, we're gonna leave it right there, Coach. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you and what you do, and I'm just glad to be part of your team. So
thank you, brother. Thank you so kindly for what you do also.
All right.
Till next time, and be safe in your travels. You and your family.
Yeah. We'll connect pretty soon. Take care.
All right, brother. Blessings.
Blessings.